Hi everyone, Paddy here. Welcome back to part 3 of our E3 preview spectacular. Joined again by CJ and the lovely James Carter of Cane and Rinse. Let's get to it.
Sony's conference then, which is 2:00 in the morning over here.
Yeah. It's a tradition at this point, isn't it?
I hope it's a good one as well, because I don't think last year's was great, and I remember you feeling really quite sad. And
it was a 6 out of 10 in retrospect. I was a bit more... I think I cooled off on it a bit more as it went on. It was fine. It just wasn't anything special last year. It was just, here's some stuff you all already know about, mostly. As Laura said, and Laura put this in just a wonderful way, the year before, they spaffed. They were spaffing. They were spaffing all the good news. And last year, 2017, they just showed you what was on the tissue.
There was some strange stuff last year as well. I thought, I know everybody kind of leapt down the throat of the Detroit Become Human thing, which didn't bother me at all. I thought I enjoyed that.
Well, David Cage is a terrible human, and everything he does should be derided just because he's there.
But it was the Last of Us 2 footage that I just really didn't like at all.
No,
it was just
Was that Hammer Time?
I just remember somebody being strung up, and it was just not for me. If there's a tone that makes me happiest, I just thought it was vile.
Was that E3 or was that later in the year at Paris or PSX? Because
I felt like it was E3, but
it feels E3. Like it was E3. But did they really not show anything more of Last of Us 2?
Because it was. The point where people were talking about that Detroit footage was the same time they were talking about the Last of Us stuff, and I looked at it and nobody knew what it was at first, and I was just looking at it, just thinking like, this is just hateful. It's not my bag at all.
Bizarre, yeah.
And going on the back of the year before, just having footage of a girl playing guitar and everybody bursting into flames, seemingly as a reaction. It's quite the dichotomy between the two.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of scene that I'm not dead set against it in just existence, but it needs a lot of context for that kind of a scene to work. And that's
100%.
You just don't have the context. So they must have known when they chose to show that scene as an out of context scene from Last of Us 2, they must have known that's the reaction they were going to get. They can't have not known that showing that kind of a brutal torture scene with just a real sort of nasty feel to it, they must have known that was going to be the response.
I mean, I saw that being as quite a lot of horrible stuff happens in The Last of Us. It's quite a grim game, like a lot of nasty stuff. And I see them as then going, well, we've got more tricks up our sleeve.
Yeah, we've
it
got
gets
to take
worse.
It up a level. Yeah.
But it doesn't. I don't mind a bit of grimness. I like grim. But sometimes you watch it, you're like, is this too much now?
But I remember how tearful you were at the original game and how emotional the original game was for you, and that just didn't seem like.
Wasn't that? It wasn't. It was different. It was not. Thematic, I suppose not thematically. It didn't hit the same. Like Last of Us, the Last of Us shite. The first Last of Us, breathe. It broke me. I played it over 2 days, 2 8-hour sessions. So I was doing it for review before anyone else had played it. So I'm sitting there on my own at the end of that game, sitting there, not quite sure what to do with myself. Like, I need to talk to someone, but nobody's played it. What the fuck do I do? And I just sat there broken as fuck for a couple of days. Like, I sat on the sofa for a good half an hour, just sort of going, when it was finished. And that really got there. And maybe that scene, the hammer scene, will, in context, resonate a bit more. But on its own, it's like, here's something nasty.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, it's not enough. Like, tell us why we should be interested in these random selection of people. Again, they're hinting it might be a mum or someone else. Give us some context. Give us something. Here's some strangers hitting each other. By the way, it's Last of Us 2. That's not quite enough.
I don't even think it had kind of the sort of shock factor of for me, of like, oh, I really want to know more about this. I want to know about that context. For me, it was just like, what is this?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I want to know less.
Absolutely
Put it away.
No.
Yeah.
Give me something. Give me something that might sort of balance this out and redeem it. Because at least the stuff from the year before was, I thought it was quite emotional. You saw, is it Ellie grown up and stuff, and you saw, you saw, the return of characters as to whether one of them was alive or dead. We don't know, but there were lots of questions, and there was a lot of emotion, like genuine emotion in there, like sunlight and that terror, and there was a lot of contrast there. That was just one tone, and it was the complete opposite of anything I want to ever go near.
Yeah,
it's just not my bag. I don't find it's an entirely personal thing, but I don't find joy in going into something that's just that hateful for me.
I mean, I like a big, I like grim. I'll be fan as long as it's got some light in there as well. Sort of Game of Thrones gets there a bit. I mean, there's a series of books by a guy called Joe Abercrombie I like to read, and they get dark, but there's bright in there to balance it out. It's not just here's some hateful shit for 400 pages. Like there's brightness in there to balance it out, and hopefully, whatever Last of Us 2 becomes, whatever kind of game it ends up being, or whoever it's about, hopefully they do balance that out. But yeah, if it's that kind of grim all the way through, I work hard all day. I don't want to come home and be upset.
Yeah, it's not going to be. I mean, it David, the guy there's the boss fight with Ellie in the first game. That's a particularly nasty character, and that scene out of context, albeit not like the stealth stuff, but some of the stuff to do with that scene, taken out of that game where you haven't had the build-up, you haven't got the investment in Ellie, you don't know what sorts of people are around in the world. That could have been, maybe not equally, but similarly
100%.
difficult out of context. I think this, if they build up to it, you understand who those characters are and then get to see what comes of that scene afterwards. I think that it's still a lot. It's still tough. And
I then question why you'd showcase that though.
Yes,
of all
that's
things,
the bizarre choice. The only thing I can think of is to get the attention that it got, because I heard very few people say that, oh, I really liked Last of Us, but I'm not playing the second game now I've seen that. Most people were saying that was a bit much. Maybe we should wait and see what it is in the game and how it plays. I don't think it turned anyone around on not playing the game, but it got headlines beyond just, hey, Last of Us 2 is coming out. That'll be cool. And that's a really cynical take, and I don't want to be that cynical about it, but I can't imagine Sony signing off on that being shown unless they understood what reaction it was going to get, and they must have.
I mean, I saw a bit of reaction to. You remember the trailer they showed for Last of Us 1 where Joel's kind of is in the apartment complex and he's kind of moving around and taking out a bunch of dudes one by one, and Ellie's distracted them and stuff. Like, on its own, out of context, that just man murders 5 men horribly.
With help of young girl.
Yeah, and out of context, that could be like, what is this hate game? This doesn't look nice, this doesn't look fun, this just looks spiteful on its own, but you throw the context on there, it's fine. And maybe we'll get some of that at this year's E3. Maybe we'll get a longer segment or some sort of extended story trailer, I imagine. So, I can't imagine them wanting to show too much right now, but maybe get us that first hook.
Do we think they open with Last of Us?
Well,
I don't know. I don't think they open with it.
Before,
they open it or they close with it, I reckon. I don't think they do one or the other.
Yeah. Well, they've said going into it that a number of things. That the PS4 is in its down cycle ahead of the PS5 in 2020. The
I think they walked that back though, didn't they? That was one guy said this, and then Sony came out and said, "Yeah, maybe
not quite."
Don't
well, they
quite.
said that E3 2018 would contain no surprises. Is that a decent
which is
idea
remarkable
to leave?
given E3 2017 was basically no surprises. It felt last year's show felt like Sony just need to carry on doing exactly what they're doing. They don't need the big wow factor stuff they had previous years, and if they're doing that again, that's.
But
I'll be disappointed.
I don't understand the idea of that. I mean, like, leave the rest of the gen to sort of pick up the crumbs they've laid the last few years, and then launch the PS5 with a tale of great exclusives. Yeah, I can see that on the one hand, but as I was mentioning in the previous episode, you've got competition in there, and Microsoft are desperate to make up, to build up a degree of trust, and to kind of win things back that had gone astray. And the history of video gaming is companies that have just become sort of lackadaisical and taken their audience for granted, and then somebody else has kind of stolen them away again. So that, I mean, they've got some great games coming up, some absolute belters, don't get me wrong, but to come out and kind of say that just seems a little
so
weird.
they specifically said that the focus is going to be on the kind of big four first party games that they've got, and they said those were, or that they've got coming I should say, and those were Last of Us 2, Death Stranding, Spider-Man, and
Days Gone?
Ghost of Tsushima. Days Gone's not going to be there.
Days Gone's not, and actually today, in between recordings to peek behind the curtain.
But it's only been 5 minutes. What are you talking about?
They've just announced that Days Gone is February 2019, but not potentially not to expect anything of Days Gone at E3.
Yeah,
so
heard that, yeah.
I watched that trailer and I got nothing. I am struggling to care.
And I've seen less and less excitement for Days Gone amongst, and hey, it's anecdotal from my carefully selected social media group. Maybe I just happen to have selected for all the people who are not interested in Days Gone, but I've just seen complete dwindling excitement from not a particularly high starting point with the first trailer. And yeah, I think we can probably say we're not going to see anything of it at E3. I guess they save it for PSX or Paris Games Week.
Yes, a bit close.
A few months out from release, but
I mean, they have said the bulk of this show is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be a deeper dive into those four games, with a lead-in and after show showing off what's coming. Maybe that's a really good idea. I mean, I always think in this regard, a few years ago when Nintendo first announced Splatoon, and there was a really cool sort of look at how it plays, the design, what went into it, and you got a real feel for what Splatoon was going to be. And I'm wondering if that's sort of what they're going to double down on and show us. Death Stranding, I presume, is going to. Will we see gameplay?
We might find out what kind of game it is.
I mean,
what kind of game is it?
I mean, Spider-Man, I can imagine that much, much, much deeper dive. Last of Us 2, I think they'll probably be showing us design stuff, what they fancied, and maybe a glimpse of gameplay. I think Ghost of Tsushima is going to be like one of the super deep dives, because that was. What did you make of last year's reaction? Because it went over my head, but a lot of people are like super looking forward to this. But it seems that, from what I can tell, the people that are looking forward to it are looking forward to it because it's Sucker Punch rather than what they've seen.
That's where I am. I loved Infamous. I didn't finish Second Son, but I enjoyed what I played of it.
I enjoyed Second Son. I did a great deal.
I played the shit out of Infamous 1 and 2 though, and Festival of Blood, which was friggin' hilarious. Electric Hitler becomes a vampire. Perfect. I'm really excited. That's probably the one I'm looking forward to seeing most, I think, out of everything. So maybe I'm looking at the list of things I've got written down, and that's probably one of the big four that I'm most looking forward to, because I don't know much about it. Like, I want to see what it's about. I want to see how it plays. I want to see some actual gameplay. I mean, contrary to what you're saying, CJ, I don't think I want to see just like 4 big deep dives. I don't really need that. I don't need to see a deep dive on Spider-Man. Spider-Man swings around and punches bad guys, does web stuff. What more than that do you need to know?
Yeah, like, there was a little kind of the stuff that they showed last year. It looked a little bit press X to vault over helicopter.
Yeah,
and I'd like to see how it plays, how it controls, how I do the swing stuff, what there is in the regarding enemies. Also, I found out the other day that the game is being written by Dan Slott, who is rather highly regarded for his Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah. But does that need to be on stage at the Sony show? Does that need to be 10 minutes, where that could be a 5-minute presentation and then 5 minutes given to something else? Because I like it when they show off shitloads of stuff. Like, that's my favourite. I mean, maybe last year that's why I was so down on it, because they only showed off a few things. It wasn't really a big show at all, was it? They spent a while on the stuff they showed, and they kind of moved pretty quickly. It was over in an hour, I think, which is the shortest one they've done in forever.
Yeah,
I want to see... One of my notes is, I want to see a lot more indies. I think the Switch is currently killing them as far as promoting of the indies, because, you know, anytime an indie comes out, like, oh, it's on the Switch now. The thing is, PlayStation 4 has most of those games as well, and has had them for a longer time, and they're not making a bigger deal of it. It's like, do you want Shovel Knight? We've had that for ages. Do you want Rogue Legacy? Or Owlboy came out on PS4. Nobody gives a shit that it's on PS4, but everybody cares it's on Switch because they're making a big deal of it. Make a big deal about your indies and people will care. They didn't bother last year.
What I'll say about last year's was that Xbox show, the pace was fucking brilliant. It was game. And there was tons of indie stuff there and loads of games that I wouldn't have looked at twice. And because I might not have known about them, but it's like, oh, that looks really good. Oh, that's quite quirky.
Some games you had to look at twice because they went by so fast. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, there was that montage in there, but they highlighted a lot of games. I mean, it's in their interest too because there's a dearth of first party stuff. But they highlighted a lot of games that might not have been. You might have seen sort of. Holly Bennett mentioned them sort of further down the line. That is something that she discovered sort of whilst walking around E3 and stuff. But I thought the pace of that Microsoft show was great, and I think that's what led to the surprise with the Sony show being as wonky as it was, because it had that lead-in show which showed off a lot, and then there was a real lack of pace in the main one.
I think they need to mix it back in. I would love to see them do like the Show of Dreams from 2 years ago, where we were all bolt upright, wide-eyed at 3 a.m. because they'd announced the Final Fantasy VII remake. Like that. That's what I want out of this show. This is supposed to be the special one. Then. Yeah, well, it's the Show of Dreams. It's the Show of Dreams, and like, do you know what I don't? Here's what I think I want them to keep. I want them to keep that big, fun, like orchestral feel they've got to it, and they bring out like music to start with, and they had stage stuff. That's interesting, and that is so much more interesting to me than look at this car. Look at this car we've got. Who gives a shit about car?
If they start that Sony conference by wheeling a car down, I will laugh at you for eternity.
Yeah, you're allowed to, and I will accept it because that is horse pop.
Unless, right, that car is a Ridge Racer car. And there's going to
what if it slid onto the stage?
Yeah, taking out a Sean Layden, or it looked like it was going to, but he just like in that advert for the film Red, he just sort of like the door
steps
opens
out,
and just slides in. What up, motherfucker? Then gets out with a Spyro t-shirt on.
Yeah. It's a Spyro t-shirt. And he pulls out a Vita, and it's on the Vita as well. It's a Show of Dreams.
Well, it's kind of...
Yeah, I want that feel back. I want that feel that they've done, but with the spread, I think. I don't want to see... I mean, I found my notes. It's the same notebook I've been using for the Sony show last year, and there's about 8 games on that whole show. That's not enough games.
Yeah, it felt...
There's more games.
It did feel... Rather than feeling focused, it felt kind of...
Here's 10 trailers.
Yeah.
And, like, I prefer it when they kind of get into it and tell us about things. And sure, sometimes that gets a bit boring when they start doing sales numbers and stuff and teraflops. And I do not give a shit about how high quality your pixels are. Move on, please. But I do want to see, here's another game. Here's so-and-so to talk about their game. This is Mr. Johnson, who's made Game 7. Like, look at all these games now. Games! Look, games! Here's 20 minutes about a weird thing that no one's going to buy. Back to games. Here's Brian Bendis.
One of the things with last year as well was it seemed to be trailer into trailer into trailer, and I used to somebody I really miss from Sony is Adam Boyce. Like when he came out and he just got the smile on his face, like I'm really pleased to be here, but I know some stuff that you don't. I'm going to tell you, and that's something I loved about that guy. I thought he's great.
See, here's what I'd like. Imagine if they, instead of those kind of people. I mean, Gio Corsi, I want to see him back because he was always so enthusiastic about those indies. He's up for it. Imagine if they got Holly out.
Well, Holly did the opening
pre-show thing,
didn't she, last year?
Imagine they got her out at the start, though. Like, oh, it's Holly! Hey!
Oh, great.
She'd be up for it. Like,
she technically doesn't work for PlayStation anymore.
Well, true.
Interesting with you saying about Vita. I mean, it's worth interjecting here. It's not going to be at this show, but the new management at Sony have mentioned they're considering handhelds again. A tweet from GamesIndustry.biz said portable gaming shouldn't be separate from consoles. PlayStation said the PlayStation head. Newly appointed John Cadera says companies considering portable gaming options, signalling a change from previous management's thinking. So, yeah, I mean, seemingly the Switches has made Sony do a nice little turnaround in that regard.
Good.
I think that's quite
good.
nice.
Because I love my Vita. I still love my Vita. I love it to pieces, and that thing never got its due. Obviously, people that love them, but I just wish Sony loved it more. I wish
if they did it again,
on it.
Seriously, don't fuck up the memory cards. That's what I'd pitch straight in with.
SD card.
If they do it again, don't mess up all of it, because I mean, they can say, oh, look at the Switch, maybe there's a market here. You know what? When they released the PSP, it's not like the Game Boy and the DS weren't things. I mean, like by the time Vita came out, it was DS and 3DS had just come out around that time.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
There's no excuse for the way that they treated the PSP and the Vita, and I agree. I absolutely adore my Vita, but I'd rather Sony didn't do it than did that again, frankly. As much joy as I got out of the Vita, don't bother. Do it or don't, and if you're going to do it properly and go for it. And not because Nintendo showed they can make it work. Nintendo make lots of crap work. They sold cardboard as games. They make lots of stuff work that other companies aren't going to get away with. Sony can't just look at Switch and go, oh, we want that. We want to do that. Can we do that too, please? No, do your own thing and make it work. Make a Vita or a Vita 2 or a whatever, Vita, whatever you're going to call it, but do it properly and actually get behind it and actually invest in it. But evidence to the contrary, as you said yesterday, CJ, look at all the stuff Sony have released as good ideas that they then just didn't bother afterwards.
If they do another one,
it's very frustrating as someone who buys a lot of those ideas.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I'm into this, and then you get the 3 games and then it's gone.
One, I don't want a back touchpad. I'd rather have triggers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Thanks lots.
I got used that back touchpad. I think I used it for maybe 2 games ever. And one of them was a football game that I played for 5 minutes because it came with the damn thing.
I mean, I'll go a step further and say I'd rather just have shoulder buttons and no triggers than have a back touchpad.
Yeah, with triggers though, you can probably port.
I like triggers.
Yes,
because everyone loves ports. Like you could port a lot more stuff.
The same as from PSP to Vita. The second stick made a massive amount of sense. Yeah, absolutely. Get some triggers on there, even if it's shoulder button and then kind of under button and not a full trigger if they want to keep it like sort of.
But also, if you're doing sort of streaming from PS4 to your Vita 2 or whatever it is,
that's got all the inputs. Yeah.
Let me see. So obviously the big thing from last year's as well was God of War came out and sold gabazillions. Was there anything else? Did the Horizon DLC, was that on?
Horizon DLC.
Let me check my notes because I've got them here.
It was last year.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
Frozen Wilds. Yeah.
Let's have a look. I think I started with it. Uncharted Lost Legacy. Horizon Frozen Wilds and Days Gone were their openers.
God, that was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're right.
Did a bit of Monster Hunter, did the Shadow of the Colossus HD last thing. Marvel Capcom looked wank and was wank. There wasn't a lot.
That's a good game let down by very poor production.
That would imply bad.
There was that game that looked interesting called, was it Concrete Genie?
That's on my list.
Oh my god, I called it
Yeah.
that game with the kid who draws on the wall because I couldn't remember what it was called.
That
And the
Dreams,
monsters come
absolutely
out and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show me that.
And there's a bullying story. Looked a bit kind of Papo Yo-ish in terms of kind of melding a theme together with just beautiful visuals and an art style. Yeah, I want to see more of that. But
that looked quirky. I like that.
Yeah, it definitely did. It's another thing that small team, so it could be a way off, and I don't necessarily need to see more of it, but I'm desperate to at some point. Yeah,
know more about it at least. I'm killing for that. I want to see. That was one of my standouts from last year. Like, I was thinking back and thinking, oh yeah, we haven't seen anything of that since last year. It's been dead quiet, isn't it?
Before we dive any further, like there was a biggie for me. Big PS4 game announced, I think, this morning, like Tetris Effect.
Oh
God,
shit!
That trailer is
Look
good.
at that.
Oh my word! And I mean, Lumines is one of the PSP version is one of my favourite games ever. And having Miz doing Tetris, and that trailer was an absolute belter. Super.
I watched
and
that
also
trailer.
it's going to be VR as well.
Yeah, I watched that trailer with Laura because I watched it myself, and I was like, "Wee!" And I sat on the sofa. I said, "Laura, look at this." She went, "What? Well, just watch the trailer." And we watched it all 2.5 minutes with it. It got to the end where it's like Tetris rhythm game. She looked at me, she put up her hand, and we high fived. Like, there's no words. Just like, "Yep." Because we've been playing a lot of. I know it's a bit of a diversion here. We've been playing a lot of Tricky Towers recently.
I saw you playing that.
Tetris-y puzzle game that came with Plus a little while ago. Turns out, multiplayer, that shit's real. That game is fan-fucking-tastic multiplayer. It's really, really good. And everyone we've had around that's played it has been like, one more. Yeah, one more, though. Yeah, one more again. Laura's even playing it online against strangers and doing okay. Like, we like putting blocks together in shapes, and if we can do that with a luminous sort of twist to it, get in, my son. I'll watch that. And if that's got the kind of trippy background visuals that it kind of looked like it was going to do, like, yes. Jism into my eyeballs, Tetris.
Does Miss really have misfires? He doesn't. He's a super, super talented guy. And I just think that's going to be. Whilst I'm not the sort of person that's really massively interested in VR, I can imagine, like Rez, that's going to just be a trip in VR. Just absolutely incredible.
You're coming across someone playing it. What are you doing? Squares!
I mean, it was interesting looking down my Twitter feed this morning and seeing the people just like, watched Tetris Effect trailer, put it straight back on again, then watched it again, then watched it again. It's like, I did that as well.
That's satisfying. The end bit would have gone dun, 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 psh, like, oh, that felt good.
Yeah, just even the voiceover at the start, sort of describing like the Tetris Effect and stuff, was just superb. And I was looking at all the visuals and just going like, oh,
is this what ASMR is? Because watching that gave me the feelings.
Yeah, it's just I can't. I mean, I'm excited for Lumines Remastered, which is the end of the month. But
everything's coming up, CJ.
Oh, excited for that. So I'm gonna bounce back to Spider-Man. Are you getting it? Are you hyped about it? Are you into it?
It looks great, but no.
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks great. Don't get me wrong. It looks like it's a laugh, but it's not the kind of game that I really buy anymore. Like, I don't buy an awful lot. I buy something I know I'm going to get a decent investment of time out of, and it looks fun. It looks fine, but it's going to sound really dismissive, and I don't mean it, but it's just a Spider-Man game. And the fact that it's being given so much, like, whoa, look, it's a Spider-Man game. Whoa, it's look at it. Look, we're going to close our show last year with 10 minutes of this Spider-Man game. Look at this Spider-Man game. If this was multi-platform, nobody would give a flying shit. This would be B game at best. Nobody would care. It wouldn't get the press it's getting. I think the fact it's exclusive is a massive thing behind it. It looks fine. Don't get me wrong, it looks fine. Give me a Spider-Man game that looks like that new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie cartoon thing.
Oh my god, that trailer's awesome.
Give me that. I don't want to see just bog standard, normal Spider-Man And sure, it looks beautiful, the graphics look great, and the rippling of the suit is fine. How many times are you going to actually see that when you're whizzing around? Probably not very many, let's be fair. Like, loads of suits to unlock, big whoop, have some DLC. Like, I'm struggling to get excited about it. It's just average, it's a B game.
Somebody pointed out on Twitter this morning that there is, in that Into the Spider-Verse movie, there's a connection to Spider-Man 2099, and I went through the roof. I was like, where are my back issues? Miguel O'Hara's in this. It was just, that was a great trailer.
Enjoyed that, but this is just, like, it's just fine. It looks like it's based off of a film. It looks like a game of the film, like Wolverine Origins, which turns out I really like Wolverine Origins. That game was so much better than that film.
Was it Raven Software?
I think it was, Raven. I think it was Raven. That game was fucking great.
They're making COD maps now.
Do you remember when they made it a game where you could blow up Wolverine and he'd grow back in real time? How
they
cool
did Singularity as well, and I really like Singularity, and the Wolfenstein game they did as well. Didn't they do the Marvel top-down game as well?
I think they did one of the Infinite ones, or maybe it was X-Men Legends, maybe.
Yeah, they did X-Men Legends. I think they did the first one of the Marvel top-down ones, games, at least. Yeah, that's it.
But
James,
great. But
Spider-Man.
James, you go. I'm upset.
Completely other, actually, for me. I was concerned by last year's showing just how much quick time eventy Sony cinematic experience bollocks it looked. Except they were incredibly quick to say, this is a cinematic sequence, there's a handful of these in the game, it's not what you're doing most of the time, it's just what we thought would show off the game and the tone of it at a show. So I'm expecting them to spend quite a bit of time looking at how it plays, maybe teasing more of the story, because we've seen one bad guy, really negative man.
He's very online.
He's all about E3 snark. And I'm expecting them to tease, because there's going to be loads of, they've talked about, Brian Intar talked about it last year's E3 Coliseum and some other stuff, about how much they're kind of building in Spider-Verse stuff and other Marvel stuff, not necessarily saying it's going to be like MCU related or anything, or it's going to tie into other Marvel games necessarily, but they're not going to shy away from, say, you're in New York, so there's an Avengers Tower somewhere, that's in New York, it's part of the universe, it may be there, so that kind of stuff's cool. And I think there is a good reason why Sony are getting behind this and making a big deal. I think, like we talked about with an Arkham Asylum, there have been plenty of B-tier superhero games. Arkham Asylum isn't one of them, and it didn't necessarily do anything spectacularly new and different. It put a lot of craft into creating a universe that felt Batman. It felt like a version of a Batman universe. And I think they can do this with a Spider-Man, and there's a reason a lot of people point back to Spider-Man 2 and say, that was all kinds of PS2 game, but it got swinging around right, and that's a feeling that, just like with God of War, every review talked about the feeling of snapping that axe back to your hand being something that, that's a split-second thing that happens, a lot of times through the game, but the fact people still felt that was a good mechanic, a good responsive thing to do, it felt good, worthy enough of mentioning in the review. If they can get swinging in this Spider-Man game and combat in this Spider-Man game to feel as good as that, where after 20-30 hours of playing you still feel amazing as you're zipping through New York, then I'm all kinds of over it. And more fool me, this is my last shot at Sony first party, because frankly I'm getting nothing from them since Uncharted became the cinematic aesthetic that needs to be pushed onto every single Sony first party game.
True.
The way the camera moves, the way they go for cinematic, in quotation marks, sequences, and feel the need to I feel like I'm being led by the nose through the story the developer wants to tell me, and I am not part of those games. I got halfway through God of War and stopped. I was bored. And I know that's an awful thing to say about a game that loads of people loved. It's how I felt. I can see the stuff that's good about it. It's not for me at all. And Uncharted 2 was kind of where I started to notice this and didn't feel good about it, which again is a weird game to pick given how loved that is. I gave Last of Us a shot, didn't get on with it that much. I skipped Horizon Zero Dawn because I saw a lot of that kind of stuff in all the preview stuff and anything I saw of that game. I gave God of War a shot and it fell flat, and this does feel like, yeah, I'm a sucker. I am going to try Spider-Man out in September when it comes out. It's only a few months away. And maybe I shouldn't, but I am hopeful. And what I want to see from Sony is a lot more fleshing out of what, not spoiling it, not taking away from Discovery. Just give me some more about how it's going to play. And yeah, the cinematic stuff there, and that's great because you do need that in a big kind of blockbuster Spider-Man story. But I want them to allow you to explore the, as you said, the Into the Spider-Verse trailer, where it felt like you got to know in a trailer who Miles Morales was, whether or not you've read him in comics and seen him before. You felt like this kid's, you felt his heart, and you went on a trip with him through a 2-minute trailer. Yeah, and they've said that this is Peter Parker who's older, but that there is scope for, we have seen in one of the trailers that Miles is there. There is scope for them building that stuff in, whether that means you can play as other characters or whether it just means they're there. It makes it feel like it could be more special to me. But my worry is exactly what Paddy said, that this is getting a lot of time, a lot of face time, because Sony are proud of having a Marvel license to work with. They know it's going to be a hit sales-wise, and maybe it's not that game, because Infamous wasn't one that grabbed me. I felt the story and characters were really flat to the point of not really getting much out of the first one. I played all the way through it. But
the second Son? Or
no, the first Infamous game.
All right, I'm with you.
Just regular old Infamous.
Play it evil, mate. Play it evil. It's more fun.
Oh, the morality stuff.
Oh, I loved. Do you know what? I still love that first game, because I vowed, like, oh, I'm going to play it good. I'm going to play it good. And the very first moral choice, it's like, oh, give the citizens of the city some food, or take it for yourself. And they started picking it up, and I was like, I'm going to let them have it. And something in my head snapped. It's like, it's my food.
How much food do you need?
Lots.
You
I'm
drink
boy.
Electricity. You don't need to eat anything.
I need to power my electric powers to steal
right,
more food.
A couple of other things that I meant to mention yesterday. With regards
Do you mean 10 minutes ago?
No.
Illusion shattered.
One of the strong rumours for E3 on the other side of things is Sunset Overdrive 2 over on the Xbox, and the PC version has been given a green light, which I'd imagine would mean that there's probably a 4K like tickle coming for the Xbox One X, but allegedly there's a lot of people that are saying Sunset Overdrive 2 is going to have a presence at the Microsoft thing, and Paddy was the one that turned me on to Sunset Overdrive and kind of went, this is really good.
Played it at Gamescom, I was like, actually that was a laugh.
Actually, yeah, I mean, it's weird because when we spoke about it after you've been to Gamescom, it was the most Sony thing that wasn't at Sony.
Yeah.
You know, the big sort of bright, daft, bonkers, sort of Ratchet and Clank.
Here's some colours and fun. Enjoy.
It got attitude. Plus, with regards to Insomniac, I saw that trailer today for Stormland, their Oculus Rift like VR game, and it looks lovely.
Yeah, they've done quite a bit of VR stuff, haven't they? In the past few years, I want to say they released quite a few things. I thought, unless I'm mistaking the studio, but yeah, they've got history, I think.
It just looked a little bit like quirky, and a little bit different, a little bit emotional, and there's a touch of maybe Wall-E in there, and just it looked good. So there you go.
Do you think we're going to see any Monster Hunter, given how well it's done for them?
Probably not. Not here.
Do you not think? Not even like coming soon.
I think. I mean, with regards to other stuff, obviously we'll see more of Call of Duty. Do you think this is where they'll show off their Battle Royale?
Yeah,
probably, yeah, because they've got
going to be at Sony, even though
deal, yeah.
Take out 10 minutes of the show for man shoot gun. It's just white noise. Content. It's white noise for me at this point. It's white noise. Comes on, then I just go and put the kettle on. It's nothing. And I know a lot of people like it, but we know it's coming. We know everyone. Why bother? Don't give it 10 minutes.
Well, it's a big franchise, and that's pretty ignorant.
I don't care.
And Sony have fought to have it there because they've stolen it away from the other side. But whilst it's not my bag, I am curious to see. The rumours about this Battle Royale mode is that they've taken loads of the maps from previous Call of Duties and they've woven them all together into the one giant map that's going to be sort of slowly closing down. So that's a curiosity for me. I'm interested to see how the people react and exactly how they pull it off. But
that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, or could be excellent. But yeah, to my mind, I mean, PUBG has 2 now, a third map possibly, but they've got a very small number of maps, and it feels like part of the reason is they are kind of crafted to a great extent to suit that style of gameplay. I don't know how stitching together a patchwork of other maps that were designed for other styles of gameplay necessarily works without a lot of tweaking and honing.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's a general comment, but on the face of it, I was kind of like, I wonder how kind of you actually going to do that. And I mean, the strange thing with this, with Black Ops 4, as like Pad and I have sort of spoken about personally, is that they've nixed the campaign, but the rumours were that one of the reasons, aside from trying to avoid getting anywhere near Red Dead Redemption, was that the campaign was considered too weird. And I'm sorry, I'm not a Call of Duty player, but any campaign that's considered too weird turns my head and goes, really? I'll have a bit of that. What? That sounds fun.
And too weird for a game that has now completely adopted zombie mode into a serious World War II shooter series as it started out as.
With celebrity cameos.
Too weird, and they couldn't bring it together for the kind of earlier release dates. It's coming out earlier in October rather than early November, isn't it? So
everybody's trying to avoid Red Dead.
At the end of October.
Except Hitman 2, who don't give a shit. Who don't give no shits.
And quite right, because frankly, if I don't think I can play Red Dead Redemption 2 in the 2 weeks between it and Hitman 2 coming out, I ain't buying Red Dead Redemption 2.
Do you think Red Dead will be here?
Ooh.
Because I mean, there is
Probably.
exclusive content, isn't there, for Sony?
Yeah,
which they're saying.
It's out in November, isn't it? They want to show something at E3. I think you've got to pick one of the big shows to do it on. And I think it's either Sony or Microsoft. And I think they'll do Sony.
They don't. Rockstar have a history of not showing their game at conferences.
Oh, but it's Red Dead 2.
Yeah,
there is exclusive Sony
5.
content, isn't there?
It was Grand Theft Auto 5 and it was Grand Theft Auto 4, and Microsoft got the chance to make a big deal about getting the DLC, but they didn't get to show the game as far as I remember. Rockstar have history of they show their games on their terms where they want, and it's not going to be handled by anybody else. They might get a trailer for the DLC or be able to say something about it, but I'll hold my hands up if it's there. I'm very doubtful that Rockstar will hand their game off to anyone else, and I don't think they'll want to show up on Sony's stage. But you're right.
Or if it's going to show up at any stage, I think it'll be this one.
Yes,
if it is going to show up at
this one, if it's there. But I just think Rockstar have their marketing honed down to a fine art, and I don't think they care about E3 in the slightest. I
hadn't considered it. I hadn't considered it like that. That's a fair point. I
want
to see some though. I want to see some.
If it's anywhere, it's here. Yeah.
Do we see Destiny 2 coming out and showing a deeper dive into the Forsaken stuff that's coming up in September? Because they're always there.
Yeah, they made a big shout about that. Obviously this week. and there's a chance to show more of that. Maybe they shouted about it this week because they didn't want to get caught up in everything else that's going on. But yeah, I think again Sony have got a kind of deal in place. Do they get this earlier than Xbox?
I don't think so. And they have said at the time that Forsaken comes out that all of the exclusive PlayStation content for Destiny 2 will now be on Xbox, which is interesting given that the exclusive content that was on PlayStation for the original Destiny only came to Xbox like just before Destiny 2 came out.
Right, yeah.
Well, maybe now because Destiny 2's not been doing so well, Sony maybe don't want to give them that money to keep it as exclusive as it's been because it's not as big of a deal as it was.
Maybe, or maybe it was always agreed to be a year after release and then it would roll out elsewhere. Because I've seen a lot of that where they actually come right out and say at pre-order stage, pre-order exclusive content that will be exclusive for a year. They'll actually put a deadline on that kind of exclusivity.
Do you think Destiny 2 put their trailer out the other day to try and I think they will show something, probably Sony's show because it's been intrinsically linked for so long now. Do you think they got that out of there to get the hot takes out of the way? Because whenever a Destiny thing goes up, like there are stories, there is news, everyone on Twitter reacts.
Yeah.
Get that out of the way and then just show it again. And then you won't get, like, the story then won't be from E3 that they show off this and this and this, and Destiny 2 is going to be back to Destiny 1 again, and this and this. Like, they don't want to get lost in that shuffle, I don't think. I think they
don't want to get lost, but I think you're right. There was quite a lot of backlash about the pricing situation and the fact that you have to have the previous expansions and stuff. And maybe this gets out of the way so that they can just put the trailer up for anyone who hasn't seen it to see it. Not. They're
going to have to do a fucking lot to make me want to buy that game because I was day and date on Destiny 1. You know, I got on the DLC a bit late, thanks CJ. But once I got the first couple, I was in and I was there and I bought it all and I loved it and I said, yeah, I'm going to be playing this forever. And Destiny 2 just dropped the ball so hard. I just don't feel the need. And now apparently, if you haven't bought both of the DLCs for Destiny 2, Forsaken, whatever it is, won't work.
Yeah.
Fucking, Paddy, how much do you hate me?
Paddy, as much as you say Destiny 2 dropped the ball, you don't truly know how much they dropped the ball until you get your hands on it. It is bizarre.
If it's lots, then I'm okay not knowing.
But mate, it's just... I remember at the start of it, there was... Because I delayed playing it for ages, because it came with my Pro, and I was waiting for you to pick it up, and I think we were both in on Warframe at that point. So
I think after a year, you realised that, do you know what, nah.
And there was a point, I mean, there were so many moments where I was just baffled by the art direction, how badly designed it was, and God, there was a bit that still it made me retch, like near the start where you've seen the stuff that was in the beta where you know everything happens with the new enemies and everybody loses their light and have to leave the tower which gets destroyed and stuff, and you saw that they were down on Earth and then what are we going to do, and then this eagle starts leading them onwards and I was like, what? This is awful. and then there's some enemies and what do we do now? So bewildered. This is the eagle again. It's leading me onwards and it eventually leads them to like some sort of farm, or I was like, this is shocking. And it's just the stuff that I played is just bad. Really bad.
I played the campaign and yeah, there was some decent stuff in it, but there was a lot that was just like, what is this? What is this encounter? What is this level design?
Some of the art direction as well was just, I mean, the European Dead Zone was just atrocious. It was as standard as you can get. And when you got to meet the Vex later on, that was beautiful. It was really nicely done. But it doesn't surprise me that the main art director from Destiny ended up working on Kong Skull Island, and is apparently on the Metal Gear movie as well.
Don't tease me.
But when you watch Kong Skull Island and like you find out that it's the Destiny art director, you go, that's why they're sitting in a bar having a conversation and the background's pink. It's there's some really nice art direction in there, and it just didn't surprise me.
Well, and of course, director of Kong Skull Island, Jordan Vogt Roberts, is it?
Yeah.
Is that he's good friends with Hideo Kojima as well. Yeah, he was on E3 Coliseum.
That was good last year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And my tweel for Sony might be related to that as well, I think.
Go on, son.
Shall I do that now?
Yes.
Do it.
Jack Black is at the E3 Coliseum and has been announced to be voicing something in Psychonauts 2, because obviously he and Tim Schafer are friendly. And I don't know if it's going to be Sony. It feels like it could be at Sony. It feels like Sony of 2 years ago were kind of all up in the business of bringing back wanted materials and games. And I think Psychonauts 2 could end up on a stage. I don't think you have Jack Black there maybe you do have Jack Black there just for the Coliseum because he just wants to hang out with Tim Schafer. But I think if you've got Jack Black in E3, in around E3 for the Coliseum, why wouldn't you put him on a stage? Psychonauts 2 is next year, so 2019, but there hasn't been much said about that since the VR thing and it was announced. I think we could see a trailer maybe and have a Jack Black doing a funny voice and a gurning on the stage.
I'd enjoy that. I'd enjoy him doing some Jack Black business.
I don't know how up I am for Psychonauts 2 until I see it. Psychonauts is cool, but I don't know whether it kind of had its time and now is a bit too late to be going for a sequel. But if anyone can do that, then Tim Schafer's your man to bring that forward. So I think that would be really cool. That is my tweel, not including the silly, jokey, absolutely no VR tweel that I had when I was talking about it earlier on.
The no thank
today.
you please. Yeah, the no thank you please tweel.
But yeah, I just thought that would be cool, and that seemed like an appropriate time to mention it.
Final Fantasy VII remake. If it is at Square and they go and they show a little teaser, do we traditionally probably see more of it at Sony?
Do we traditionally probably see exactly the same trailer? That's another thing I'm getting a little bit tired of, is seeing the same trailer multiple times in a 5-minute conversation about a game. We've just seen.
I would like to pull what they did with 15 that time, where they went, "We're going to tell you more at the next show, lol."
Yeah,
and just
I
think
off. we might see more of that. Actually, Christ. I think we might see more of that. But yeah, the Hitman 2 reveal that just happened tomorrow, as of our recording last night. Timey-wimey is funny-wunny. Decided to show the same trailer 3 times in the first 10 minutes of that presentation.
Although, the promotional images, have you seen the promotional images for that yet? Are astonishing. They're just close-up shots of Hitman holding, like, fish and cupcakes and the various tools that you can use to kill a man.
Water bottle, I believe, is one.
Yes, that's the marketing I crave.
How weirdly, darkly funny
embrace
the
that
are.
shit.
Yeah,
they said
really
this one's not episodic.
Not episodic. All comes out 13th of November. I had it penciled down for maybe a reveal at Sony, but obviously with the kind of weird situation where I are independent but have a Warner Brothers Games distribution deal, I guess WB teamed up with IGN just to get it a showcase on its own. I kind of think now it's not going to be at any of the conferences. But yeah, coming out 13th November, I figured we'd hear about it now and it wouldn't be out until a year after that, frankly. And the whole thing coming out at once. And as follow-up to the Sniper Challenge, Sniper Assassin Mode, as a pre-order bonus now, which is exactly what they did for Absolution with the wonderful Sniper Challenge back in 2013. So yeah, I mean, 2013? Yeah, I think so.
Basically, everything's coming up, James.
Everything's coming up, Hitman, and I could not be happier. I'm so delighted for the guys at IO. I maintain that Hitman was the game they had wanted to make for a long time. They had to jump through some hoops to get Square to make it, and now they get to do it a bit more their way, it feels like, maybe, I hope. And still planning to do loads of after release support. Red Dead does not get a look in after the 13th of November for me. And I know I'm weird, but that's just the way it is.
You have to go through it all without being seen, don't you? So I mean, you have to do that. That's part of your DNA, isn't it?
That is where I like to be. Crouched in a corner for a good half hour before I decide to move anywhere.
Hot take that we might see at the Sony conference.
Yep.
Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah, it's high time.
If Capcom were there with Monster Hunter, I think if Capcom were there showing a little bit of Monster Hunter off, they could show this as well. I think you'll get both. I think
anywhere near Monster Hunter. There's nothing
to
show at a main show.
I reckon they'll tease something new coming. Like, here's the next dragon. Here's the next thing. We're going to do a special event for summer event. I feel like they've got something.
It's big enough for a conference.
Do you not? Well, they were there last year, and it looked really good.
Yeah, but if it comes to next year and they're going to go, right, here's G rank, here's like the next big push for an expansion or something, that I can see being at the show because it's newsworthy. But at this point, they've just got a sort of tale of upcoming monsters and events, and
could it be a TGS kind of a thing?
Oh, maybe.
I don't know. I just kind of feel like stereotype it as a still kind of a Japan centric game, because obviously it's not at this point. It is Monster Hunter World in title and in the reach, but I just wonder if that could be the sort of thing. It wouldn't surprise me because Monster Hunter did get a lot of love at conferences before release for Monster Hunter World, but I've kind of been surprised. I feel like I've heard less about this Monster Hunter game after release than any of the Monster Hunters since like Try, where I feel like there was always people, yourselves included, but a lot of other people on my timeline, on social media, on podcasts, talking about, hey, isn't it cool? I'm still playing Monster Hunter, and it doesn't feel like that.
It comes with Monster Hunter World comes with some phenomenal quality of life changes.
Yeah.
Which to some people, and it's a valid comment, have said that it maybe takes some of the niche out of the series because a lot of things have been
some of that mystery,
sugared up and planed down, which I disagree with in the main, but I know that some of the comedy's been taken out. The colours weren't as resonant as some of the older games, but I know that the Generations Ultimate, which is the Western Switch version of Double Cross that was in Japan, whereas Monster Hunter World has 30 monsters, I think. Generations Ultimate has got 93. And a lot of people are saying it'll be interesting to see if people can, even those that are familiar with the series, if people can take a step back to what Monster Hunter was. And I think that previously those folks who were really into Monster Hunter just were shouting about it at one another, and because people generally seem sort of quite scared of it, whereas Capcom should be applauded for just bringing everybody in. Also, at the point where Destiny 2 was not only shooting itself in the foot, but every other limb possible. It's this thing of hey, here's something that everybody can play. DLC is going to be free. Way, come and have a pop. Pitching that release date at the end of January was just perfect. Everybody wanted to have a pop at that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But Remake 2, you reckon, is gonna, or retake?
Because they announced it a few years back.
Yeah,
and I think it's isn't it the anniversary this year as well?
I think so, yeah.
Well, and plus they've had such good press for Resident Evil 7. I think it would be daft not to use 2 Remake as a nice, not even stopgap, but a nice kind of stepping stone between that and whatever they're going to do next. Just to say, hey, remember how you all liked 7? Well, here, go back and try this one. And 2's incredibly beloved. I
think you make a big splash on this stage as well, because it has to be at a Sony conference anyway. But that game's adored.
Imagine that's how they show it, so it all goes dark, and on the screen you just get the this trailer contains scenes of violence and like intense violence and gore, and it goes away.
It's not The
and then
Last
you
of Us 2.
And then you hear bong, Resident Evil 2, and then I shoot out the window because that would be proper. That'd be proper.
And then
I've ASMR'd. Oh no!
The trailer finishes and everybody's applauding, and the room's still black, and then I just hear, "Dost thou seek soul power?" And I turn into energy and do lap of the world because thing I love is Demon's Souls, and Demon's Souls Remastered. I would probably just be called Demon's Souls at this point. If it's Blue Point, as it's believed to be, just.
Welcome
Please.
to our annual CJ works himself into a frenzy over nothing section.
So I've got a question here, because obviously it's rumoured from or working on 3 projects. Now, if this is Blue Point, obviously that doesn't necessarily count, but it could be one that people are counting as one of the 3. We've got Shadows Die Twice. That some people thought could be Bloodborne 2, but is looking less likely, especially if rumours of it being at Bethesda are true. Obviously it's then not. Armored Core still persists as a rumour, but it's one of those...
No, Armored Core is confirmed.
Oh, sorry, beg pardon, it is. We were just speculating it could end up at Microsoft yesterday. Can this E3 stand having Bethesda talk about Shadows Die Twice, having hypothetically Microsoft talk about Armored Core, having Sony announce Demon's Souls, and there's still that persistent rumour of a Bloodborne 2? They can't, right? They can't have all 4.
Bloodborne 2 is obviously a thing, but I don't think it'll be at this point.
Yeah.
I've still got a curiosity that one of the authors of a TV series that I can't quite think of
yes,
now.
I remember.
Has been confirmed to be or have done work with From on a new title that they've not mentioned before. And so people have said, with the sci-fi aspect, it could be Armored Core because there's a lot of body horror in said TV show, which is escaping me at the moment. They could be, writing sort of Bloodborne 2. So I'm still curious about that. I think it's probably Armored Core, and I think Armored Core is going to get like a complete retooling. That'll be interesting to see sort of what happens with that. Plus, Miyazaki's got previous with Armored Core itself. So yeah, I genuinely think so.
You think think it could stand 3 or 4 From games in one show without feeling a little too much? Yeah, but I can see the headlines now of it's already been years of this is the Dark Souls of this is just like Dark Souls levied at every game from.
But if there's one at Microsoft, one at Bethesda, one at Sony, it doesn't mean they're all going to be launching it at the same time.
Absolutely,
and I think it pushes From's profile further. I think really it's Sony that are in charge of Demon's Souls more than anything.
Sure.
But From have stayed awfully quiet on a lot of stuff for a long, long time.
And we know they had the capability to push out Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, and Bloodborne within the space of a year. I mean, it was like 13 months, wasn't it? So we know they have the ability to. They have the people and they have the expertise to be able to do that. Whether you think that the quality of the game suffered or whatever, they have the ability to push out games of the quality of Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 in fairly quick succession. So. Yeah.
Well, at the point where Bloodborne came out and Scholar of the First Sin, because they were a month apart.
They were, yeah.
That I don't think the company that owned them now.
No, that had
actually. Yet, no. Yeah, so that was still on old money, if you will. And is it Kadokawa were stupendously cash rich, like crazy cash rich. So. Yeah, I'm curious. I want to see more from them.
I don't.
You don't.
I don't, and I'm not going to get too into it. But if they show a Bloodborne 2 off, I'll probably look at it and go, "That was a cool trailer." I'll honestly be a little bit disappointed. I kind of want to leave that alone. I think done, leave it. It's done. It's finished. It was weird. It was brilliant, and now stop. That's what the game industry. No, seriously. I think game industry need to learn to just fucking stop.
No,
catch
but in
that
that
lightning
way,
in the bottle, and then just leave it.
Are you judging?
Else.
Are you judging Bloodborne 2 by being a scholar of the first sin, i.e., like there might be vague connections to the first game, but it's going to stand on its own 2 feet and do its own thing? Or are you judging it by Dark Souls 3, whereby it will be a cack-handed piece of 13-year-olds fan fiction?
I think it will be cack-handed fan fiction. Genuinely think it will be cack-handed fan fiction. I think it's this big. They're going to put the big team on it, which they did with Dark Souls 3, and I don't want any more.
So,
stop.
Lest we forget, Bloodborne was originally Beast Souls or Project Beast.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
People thought that was going to be potentially another Dark Souls or a spin-off, and it wasn't connected really at all. They could be calling something Bloodborne 2 now that, we're talking about a sci-fi writer. Why not set it in the future? Why not set it in space? That's a ridiculous thing to just throw out there. But just because its project title at the moment is Bloodborne 2 doesn't mean it has to be any kind of direct sequel. It doesn't even mean it's going to be called Bloodborne 2.
Well, I've said previously that I'd love to see like a really grim, dark, gothic western.
Something
different,
something weird, something interesting.
But that's
Don't
what I
just
mean.
do it again.
If Bloodborne 2 is essentially the equivalent of a new Final Fantasy game, that it might have the number on there, but it's its own thing. And that's the aspect that we've discussed a lot between like it or lump it. Dark Souls 2 is its own thing. It stands on its own 2 feet. It doesn't fuck with the original game whatsoever, because it's it's almost like the connections that are there are subtle. The whispers that have changed throughout time. The fables that have been told to people and have grown. There might be sort of like connections, but it's certainly not what they did with Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, it's not easier.
And here's my concern.
The other bloke,
my concern with a Bloodborne sequel is that it's not a sequel. My concern is they do a prequel. Like, we'll do times when the curse was just breaking out with the first hunters, and here's Lawrence, and we're going to learn all about Lawrence. And I think something you said earlier,
the DLC, that's done.
Yeah, that's done, and that was vague and weird, and it was brilliant.
But there are folks with regards to the DLC who said that the lore in that contradicts something that's kind of cool in the main game. So that you have to sort of tread lightly with that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
at the best of times. But I'd imagine if it is, we don't know for sure, but if they have brought in the guy that wrote The Expanse, or one of the guys that wrote the original novels, I'd imagine that Miyazaki said all he wants to say with Bloodborne, and he's basically because there is a strong body horror, like blood. Body horror sort of aspect to The Expanse, as to whether they've just gone like, do your own thing, mate, and that would excite me, because it was it would be something that's curated and somebody following their own instincts and what they want to do, rather than Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
And I think something you said earlier about them being quite quiet about this sort of stuff. They're not saying much. I think that's good on their part. Not only because, it keeps it vague, but also, let's be fair, they announce, okay, we're doing a Bloodborne 2, and it's going to be a prequel. Within 5 minutes, there will be hour-long lore videos detailing the entire breakdown of the plot. It's like, guys, just stop.
Mate, last year they showed off that Shadows Die Twice, and there were already 20-minute hot takes on it.
Videos of
and I know now this is quite hypocritical of us, because we sat and we talked about that for about 25 minutes, but we speculated wildly.
But we're idiots.
We are idiots. We don't progress to be the holders of the law. I certainly do not progress to be a holder of the law.
Is saying very little or even nothing at all allows room for speculation, where that doesn't necessarily mean we need to give here's 10 things you forgot about Bloodborne, or here's 17 things you don't know about From Software or whatever. That it's the speculation that's part of the anticipation of the whole thing. And I think being minimalist, or at least being a bit of a tease when it comes to letting information out about your game, especially a game that is built around the mystery and the unknown and the discovery. Yeah, they got to go with that. So on Demon Souls, obviously servers went down March.
All across the world at the same time, and it is the 10th anniversary of Demon Souls this year. Just saying.
Is it? Fuck! Wow.
Sorry, next year.
Yes,
next year is the 10th anniversary.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, and we got it in 2010. How have they just consolidated all of it under Sony now, or do they still have to honour Atlas and Bandai Namco?
I don't
distribution
think so. I think
deals?
I think it's Sony for this one.
Took the servers down to kind of draw a line under all of that, and
that was the weird thing, that they all went off at the same time around the
because
world.
we'd had rumours of the American servers going down, the European servers going down previously separately, and that never came to pass. But yeah, them all going down at the same time does kind of suggest that some kind of end was brought to that game and the distribution deals. It's just baffling to think now there was a time where Sony didn't have confidence in a Souls game enough to want to distribute it worldwide, and they had to kind of piece together these distribution deals and bring it out. 2010, it came out a year later in Europe.
Well, Shu said that it's his biggest regret. Yeah. It's one of his favourite ever games. But although years back we spoke to Mr. Pointyhead, who was working at Sony at that point, and he said that when he saw Demon Souls at a Sony preview event, like way before it came out, it was in a terrible state. They were struggling to try and explain the online to people, and it just
some would say they still are.
Yeah. But you know how revolutionary that online side of things was.
Yeah.
They created lightning in a bottle. The fact that Sony didn't react to that after the initial impression and in Japan, and how the echoes of that sort of spread out across the world, and then the Atlas release, which again did huge things, and they still didn't want to release it in Europe.
Yeah.
That was just super baffling Sony at that point.
See, I think it's understandable, because I can see not fully ready for release version of that game looking like it wasn't what games were then. We're talking about a time where the most exciting stuff in games was your Mass Effects or your Gears of Wars, an in-depth, baffling, obscure RPG that didn't necessarily feel to... I mean, a lot of people will still say the Souls games have dodgy, janky combat. Now, I can't tell at this point whether I got used to it and learned to like it by getting not good but better at it, or whether it's actually what I would class as being an interesting or decent combat system, because it doesn't play like a Devil May Cry. It doesn't play like what you would expect an RPG game to play like either, and so it kind of splits the difference on action and RPG, and kind of I can see someone looking at that and thinking, what's this niche thing that's going to impress about 24 people? I understand Sony kind of looking at that and thinking, no, we've put as much money into this as we were interested in, and getting caught off guard. I think the credit to them is to not try and claw back Demon Souls, not try and grab onto a sequel for that game, to just say to From, look, we messed up, but do you want to work on something else together? I think that was a really cool thing to do.
Well,
I'm not saying I'm saying they'd made the mess, and instead of trying to pretend they hadn't and trying to work out how to undo it when Atlas and Bandai Namco were involved, just saying, all right, we can't undo what we did. We made a mistake here. Let's move forward and see what else we can do.
Bloodborne started out as a sequel to Demon Souls,
yes,
and was slowly chiseled into something else.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say with regards to, because we'll go into what other stuff we think might be announced at E3 in general, there was a really interesting trailer today for a game called Generation Zero by Avalanche Studios. And underneath in the comments, loads of people were saying that is somebody called Simon Stalenhag involved, and I believe he's a Swedish artist who creates sort of like real life. Shows how robots have developed and how they are interspersed in real life and how they could come to haunt us and stuff. And it seems that this game, because all of his stuff is set in Sweden as well, and there are Avalanche, a Swedish studio, and the game's set in Sweden. Loads of people are going like, is he involved? And like this Simon Stalenhag was like, didn't know about it until 20 minutes ago. And there were lots of people saying that, you should get money for this because they're ripping you off, and other people going, well, you can't. Can you do that if some artists always influence other artists?
I was going to say
it was interesting to follow the comments downwards, but the trailer looks interesting. It looks kind of like a more real world Horizon.
Well, I was going to say, should Guerrilla be knocking on the door saying, can we have some money too, please, because you're ripping off our game? And should Enslaved be knocking on the door of, or Ninja Theory be knocking on the door of, at a certain point, all stuff's influenced. Horizon never looked unique to me in any way at all. It always looked like it was kind of taking bits from other games, and this, it looks like it could be a co-op style shooter, and that's not necessarily something that's new. It's something that's potentially coming back. It could look a lot like, say, there was aspects of the trailer that almost potentially look Battle Royale-ish, possibly, with a co-op squad. kind of going
Avalanche are great at shooters as well, which is another string to the bow. But
my first thought was this must be therefore the Just Cause 3 team, because it looks like it's the Mad Max Just Cause 2 team that are working on Rage 2, but it's difficult to know because it's so easy for a studio to have an influx of people and split teams differently. That can be a much more dynamic thing than we think of, say, like a Call of Duty where they had specific studios working on each one. But yeah, I guess it could be the Just Cause 3 folks if they are still split into teams like that. I was surprised to see Avalanche logo pop up because I assumed everything was going into Rage 2 for them, to be honest.
Maybe, we don't know how far Rage 2 is to completion, because Bethesda are normally quite good at showing something off and it being ready quite quickly.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I think that
so.
Is possible.
So maybe there's a transition with kind of teams over onto a new game, because it's been suggested as well that maybe if Spider-Man's almost like there, almost ready to go gold in the next few months, go through its final testing and stuff, that perhaps a good chunk of that team are going on to. Are going to be working on Sunset Overdrive 2 because you can just imagine that it's a good fit.
Yeah. So they'll literally be, once people are finished on Spider-Man, peeling them off into a team for Sunset Overdrive. And
it might even have been the Sunset Overdrive team who ended up being on that Spider-Man team in the first place.
Well, that seems very likely because not entirely similar, but there is an open kind of city free roam aspect to both games, and there are a lot about movement and fluidity of movement, and I can absolutely see that. I know Brian Intihar is director on Spider-Man. I can't remember if he was in the Sunset Overdrive team, but of course, they had Fuse as well, which came out slightly before Sunset Overdrive, I think. So they've had a
couple of years, I think. I liked Fuse.
They've kind of run one game into another quite quickly. Actually, they've been fairly quick to turn around.
There was a real stench of shitty EA hands in Fuse.
Well, Fuse had that massive kind of stylistic change partway through
from
development.
Interesting to boring. The game itself wasn't that bad. It's just what might have been. It was almost good, and then they EA'd all over it.
Yeah.
So what else do you think is going to be announced at E3? Maybe outside the conferences? I'm wondering if Dragon's Dogma 2 might be there.
I haven't got any firm predictions.
Oh my god! I've just had one that's boinged into mind, seeing as I saw it in a news item last week. I wonder if we're finally going to catch up with Deep Down.
Oh no!
Because the trademark's been sort of reignited last week, I believe.
What?
And
no.
they can only do that a certain amount of times before they lose it.
My lasting memory of that is everyone thinking it was Dragon's Dogma related, and then Capcom kind of pretty much saying, no, it's not. And then nothing happened with the game anyway, so it literally doesn't matter whether it was or not.
It's nothing. It's
bizarre.
functionally nothing.
It's still being worked on.
I'm
Capcom
sure it
have come
is,
out
and if
said
they want to bring it out, good on them. But it is functionally nothing in my brain at this point. Good for them. Keep working on it. Wobble nose monsters in a cave.
Yeah, but Capcom in themselves are in a really good place at the minute, I'd say generally. And if it, as I understand it, it's been retooled quite heavily since we last saw it all those years ago. But if it's ready to come out, I mean, if they weren't going to do anything with it, they can let that trademark die. But they didn't. They've renewed it again.
So yes, absolutely. But companies the size of Capcom employ lawyers whose job it is to make sure that if the name Deep Down goes out of Capcom's copyright and trademark and generally their legal protection, someone will nab that within 5 minutes, and they will have a website where they've put up something or started a fan project or just poking fun at Capcom for Deep Down, whatever. And lawyers don't want that stuff falling into someone else's control, because then you have to start trying to take it down when you no longer own the rights to the name or anything. So it's one of those things where we've seen it before, where websites are registered or trademarks are renewed or whatever, and that comes to something. And equally well, we've seen it before where that happens and then nothing comes of it. So I don't know. I don't know. I'd be interested, because I think my first response was, "Oh, is this Dragon's Dogma related?" Because of the alliteration. Yeah, absolutely, and because it kind of looked like that, but there was all that weird kind of not pixelation, but like digitized effect stuff in it that suggested it wasn't, because there was nothing to suggest that in Dragon's Dogma, as far as I'm aware, to suggest that it wasn't, that it was any kind of thing other than what it represented. But I'd be interested, because it seemed like it could be something wacky and interesting, but I don't feel like I ever knew what it was. So
yeah, true.
I don't know how to judge whether it was ever anything real or could come to anything. Yeah,
it's hard to mourn its loss when you're not sure the shape of it.
Yeah. I mean, Dragon's Dogma Online, which we never got, as I understand it, was very good. Yeah. And it's since do you remember when the PS4 was first being launched and it was shown, it was going to be a free-to-play game, and I think that a free-to-play market now has changed significantly. And if they were to do something that was actually really, really good and just charge for like skins and like daft stuff on the side of it, they could well have a hit. And Fortnite's proved that if you do something properly, people will throw money at it. If a community is in a good place and there's goodwill with the community, they're going to spend money, because they want to keep playing the game, and it personalises their version of the game. So I'd be very curious, because I think the market is in a better place than it was when
free to play is much more established and understood how to kind of make that work for different types of games.
It's not seen with as much of a kind of raised eyebrow as it once was, like a mobile type con. Anything else you're either hoping or think might be shown off?
So on Sony, I've got a kind of leave it on actually Death Stranding. I know they're going to put a big segment of Death Stranding out there. I've had my fill of kind of weird teaser trailer stuff that links together and is really cool, but tells me nothing about the game, and is really just kind of a bit of a it's a weird peek.
But the trailers link up and the baby goes out of one and goes into the other one.
I get, and all the links and everything's happening. But again, that doesn't tell me anything about how that translates into gameplay at all. And I've seen loads of speculation on what it could mean and what the game might play like. we don't know what the game's like. If we've got a look into the studio that they've now set up and some ideas about what the game is, even if we don't have gameplay, okay, but I get the feeling it's going to be... I don't want here's another splashy CG trailer with, remember this famous person that Hideo Kojima's friends with. I kind of feel like I need something more than that, and I'm not sure the game's close enough to warrant it. So I'm really interested to see what they do, because I think they might have pushed their luck as far as they can with not really showing what that is.
I'd agree, definitely.
At this point, it just seems... It doesn't even seem game related. It's just a nice science fiction interlude.
Hey, if Sony want to tell me that they're using the Guerrilla's engine to make an animated film, and Hideo Kojima's directing it, I'll watch. I'll absolutely watch that. It's exclusive on PlayStation. Here's a film we're making. It's not actually a game. It's going to be weird. It's going to have like loads of crazy stuff going on. I'll watch that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm up for that, to see what a man who has made 45-minute long cutscenes in games can do with something that's kind of honed down to our film. But it's not. So
you honestly think it'd be 2 hours? Oh, James.
That's cute.
Oh,
James.
my sweet summer child.
My sweet summer child is what I was going for.
It's a TV series. Every episode is 2 hours, and it never ends.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of, I know I've said it about several games, but I feel like there's cool ways to tease games and to pace out the information you're giving, but when it's been 2 years and the information we're being given is not a lot of anything, and it kind of feels like they were starting from scratch with a studio and learning an engine, and that could take a long time to get a game. I just feel like I don't want to be in 3 years' time waiting
doing this
for
again.
What is quite possibly a PlayStation 5 game to still arrive, and we still don't actually know what the game is. And in that vein, Shenmue 3, that game's been pushed back, and who knows what the scope of it is. It was at Sony, but it was a Kickstarter announcement 2 years back. If they've got some gameplay to show, great. If they've got a date, brilliant. But otherwise, just let that team make their game. You don't need to publicise something if you're not going to get any extra funding off it. It's just another weird one. I don't know what that game's going to be, because I don't know that they've got the budget to make it what a Shenmue 2 was in its day. So yeah, are either of you guys interested in Shenmue by this point?
Never played it, but I understand why people love it. But it's there, sure, but it's one of those things that isn't for me. I'm interested in seeing what happens and how the game comes together, and seeing why people love it so much. Because I've never really played the game. I understand why people love it, but never like the specifics. And I've been told by people you shouldn't just play it these days. Just understand that it did some stuff that was nowadays be considered quite boring, but at the time was really kind of groundbreaking.
So there's still rumours, I think almost pretty much confirmed now, that there is an HD collection of the first two around that could be released, but unless they overhauled the controls, I'm not entirely sure I'd want to go back and play it. I played them in 2010, and they felt unintuitive and difficult to get a grasp on then, and now we're 8 years further on, and a bit more distant. But yeah, CJ, are you? I'm guessing not Shenmue interested.
No, it kind of passed me by, and the only thing that I've seen recently is people saying that obviously they've been longing for either HD versions or a new game for years, but a few of them have said, well, Yakuza has done for me everything that sort of Shenmue did, and I'm not really that
arsed. It's a weird one. I've heard quite a few people say that Yakuza kind of was where you were best off going for your Shenmue fix, obviously being the fact that it's Sega and they don't necessarily share common roots, but Shenmue was kind of built out of, here's a fighting system that's Virtua Fighter esque and and QTEs and stuff. And actually, if you go into Yakuza, you can get all of that, but in environments that are easier to explore and story that's maybe not better told, but is more contemporary in how it's being told.
And you can help a businessman stuck in a toilet by getting him newspaper to poop on.
but equally well, I've heard fans of Yakuza try to distance that game from comparisons with Shenmue, and vice versa. Fans of Shenmue who say, nah, Yakuza's not... and not because they don't like it, just because they don't... when you're in the weeds with something you love, you don't necessarily see the comparisons to something that you're not quite so fond of, necessarily, I suppose. Yeah, weird one, because Yakuza does seem to continue to go from strength to strength, slowly but surely, kind of gaining more traction. And with Kiwami and Kiwami 2 coming, I guess that's something we could see something of. But and that would be at Sony, obviously. I
know what I'd like to see. I'd like to see. I'd like to see a new, and I know we're not going to do this because Insomniac have got too much on at the minute, but I want to see a new proper Ratchet and Clank. And I don't mean like the PS4 remake of the first game that kind of just followed the plot of the movie and by virtue of that wasn't quite as good. I liked it and it looked gorgeous and it still played good, but the plot just kind of didn't quite sit for me this time. I want a proper planet hopping, spherical worlds, weird Clank sections, just romp, because for me the series never got better than Crack in Time. Crack in Time was superb.
I agree.
I want another one of them. I will give you a lot of money if you give me another one of those, no question. And that's and that's a personal one for me. I think I'd quite like to see, obviously there will be games announced that we've not heard about, and I think I'd like to see, it's a weird one, I want to see my racing game, because I haven't found it yet on the PS4. I haven't found my racing game, and I've always got one, but I haven't found my racing game yet. I found on PS1, I had Ridge Racer Type 4, that was my game. On the PS3, it was Burnout Paradise, that was my game. I haven't found it yet. I want something.
How did you feel about MotorStorm on PS3?
I liked it a lot. I didn't like the sequels.
Right.
I liked the first one quite a lot, and I remember sitting there, again, I got it on launch, because again, when you've got a launch, we talked about this last night, Fracturing Time, some time ago, and I played the shit out of that, and it was amazing, because there was nothing else to buy, and we'll get MotorStorm. We played that for 8 hours straight, just passing the pad between us, and I really, really like MotorStorm. I think from what I've seen, I've not played any, but I've seen a couple of clips of Onrush, which looks
that's exactly what I was about to say. I wondered
sort
if
of
that
thing.
might... Yeah.
Maybe. I'm tempted.
Do you think that Team Sonic Racing could tickle your fancy? Because you seemed quite curious about the different routes and the different vehicles and the team aspect
maybe.
when we chatted.
Maybe. I don't usually consider kart games to be my racing game normally. I like Mario Kart Double Dash. I love that. It was great. I like Crash Team Racing. I love that. But for me, the PS1 racing game was Ridge Racer Type 4. That was my racing game. That's the one that felt like it. Yeah, here's my face, and they've gone, let's make him a game with cars in it. Go on in. So that's what I kind of want, something to come out. I mean, Onrush could be it. I've not really looked into it that much, but just a fun arcadey racing game that's just power slides feel good. You drive really, really fast. Maybe a jump or two. That would do me. Just give me a good soundtrack, and
I think
not have Need for Speed written on it.
I really think you should take a look into it. Watch a trailer or two, or a couple of videos, because I am teetering so close to the edge. My only concern is whether or not, a Burnout structure, not necessarily Paradise, but old school Burnout, where you'd be going from race to race, and you have to kind of win each event in order to kind of unlock other events, etc. I'm worried that there's not kind of a progression like that for a single player. There is a kind of single player campaigny bit, but I think probably it's going to end up being hop on for a few races, multiplayer, but it doesn't really matter because you're not necessarily having to play with friends. They're kind of going for an Overwatch style feel, or that kind of thing, where you just hop on, you play, your vehicle and your class and your objective, and you just play it, and it looks like splashy, crashy, jumpy, fast fun.
Thing
with
is, though,
an
that
absolute
doesn't.
kick-ass
That's,
soundtrack.
if anything, sold me on it less, though. Because I want that.
That's what
single player progression. I want to play. I don't want to play against people online because people online are bastards. And MotorStorm Online was terrible because people found the cheats and the exploits, and they got good. They found the best car, or like the using the massive the semi truck thing, and then using the boost glitch to go faster than the fastest motorbike could go for the entire race. Like, well, how do I win this? They're 2 minutes in the lead already. It's lap one.
With Onrush, you win because you're not trying to win a race. You're trying to score points.
I don't know. I want to play against the computer. I don't want to play other people.
Well, you can do, and there's stuff that in the single player, like kind of cinematic stuff with the crashes and takedowns, which should perk ears if you like Burnout as much as I do.
A bit burned out on takedowns, to be honest.
Very good. But there's you can certainly play it single player. It's just it may be in the structure of just get into a race and crash and jump and drive insanely fast by the look of it, like proper old school Burnout. I am going so fast I think my eyes are watering. Type of speed, and the soundtrack just is fantastic. They've used quite a bit of a band called The Heavy. Who
I've heard of them.
Big fan of. They did the kind of main song for Borderlands 2.
The Ain't No Rest for the Wicked, that one. Was that them?
No, that was Cage the Elephant for first Borderlands. That
was close.
Ain't No Hero, is that the name of the song?
Was that the one they used for one of the Batman games as well?
Possibly, yeah. I think I've heard their songs pop up on a few different trailers, but The Heavy I'm a really big fan of. Cool sort of. I
will keep my eye on Onrush then. But interested. I have one more thing I want to see, and this is complete pie in the sky. It's never going to happen. I want a new fucking Soul Reaver. I want something in Nosgoth, and not that multiplayer shite. Give me a proper... Like, I watched some of that cancelled Nosgothy game that came out a while. I can't remember what it was called now, but I watched some of that, and I was upset because it looked exactly like the thing I want.
That was the team that did the Nintendo Wii PlayStation 2 Silent Hill game that was really highly regarded. I want it. Shattered Memories.
Yeah, it looked great, and I want that. And I mean, I suppose I'm looking at Vampire a bit recently as like, that could be my fix for what I need there, but it's not. It's not quite Monster Vampires, though, is it? It's not quite Kane, and it's not quite this big Shakespearean dialogue, and it's not. I mean, for me, Soul Reaver is. It's very like. From the outside of it, it's quite a 15-year-old's wet dream of a game, edgy vampire monster lords fighting each other, and it's. But God, that came out exactly the right time for me. I fell in love with that thing, and I genuinely love the franchise. It's hammy, but I really enjoy that it's hammy. And I like the setting. I like the just everything about it. Like the everything seems to click together. The way the timeline goes, all weird, but I can kind of follow it, which is unusual for me because I'm quite bad at timeline stuff normally. Just the bit at the end of Soul Reaver 2 when he sticks in with the Soul Reaver sword and they have the big revelation at the end of that, and I'm going, no, the entire time. Like, give me that. Give me something weird. Give me Kane.
So I wouldn't say never going to happen. I do just kind of wonder. Whether there's room for that amongst other stuff Square have got with the teams they've got available to do it. It is a Square, isn't it?
How will we? Yeah, but how? But we may not find out how Lara becomes the Tomb Raider.
Well, this is exactly it. They've got that game in development. They've got the Avengers game in development. Which, to be fair to them, if you get the Avengers license from Marvel, you
throw some money into it.
Everything you can into that game, because that's going to be a moneymaker. And if they make it good, great. But so I'm kind of looking around, wondering who they have studio-wise from probably the old Eidos groups. I mean, let's be honest. If Square Enix just have the license to throw it around, they have a relationship with Platinum.
Oh no! Don't do that to me.
Not
every game has to be a Platinum game, but that does seem like the
Seeing as we're throwing Paddy into a corner, what if it turns out to be an Xbox One exclusive and it looks fucking awesome?
I turn into energy and fly into the sun.
you would see me doing laps after the Demon's Soul thing and go like, no, mate, you're in the bin if I am.
Switch exclusive.
Yeah.
Oh, God, no. Save me.
Right, I'm going to leap in with a
Yes.
quirky one then, since we're talking Switch as well. I would, and this is a reach maybe, but maybe not, and I was reminded of it a little bit the other day and went, oh yeah. I would like a Switch version of EX Troopers, the Japan-only, anime-looking Lost Planet game that is apparently really, really good and is written by one of my screenwriting heroes, Dai Sato, who worked on Cowboy Bebop and he wrote the Casern movie, and he was on Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, and the art style is beautiful. Really wanted it over here when it was on, I think it was on PS3 and 3DS, but it never came over here, and I just think it'd be a great one to see sort of come on Switch, and I think a lot of people would jump on it. It looks beautiful as well. Really, really super gorgeous, stylish. So, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I should probably shut my mouth because I'm getting Hitman 2. I'm pretty sure I'm getting a Splinter Cell. It feels like I've already got everything I want coming, but if you're going to twist my arm, I will say I want to hear more about Biomutant, which is the weird-looking, you play as kind of a marsupial with a big sword running around.
Yeah.
The RPG, action RPG style thing. It still hurts that we're not going to get Scalebound. That looked like it might tickle a spot with kind of weird biomutant animals. Yeah, I'm just interested to see more of that. The game looked like it had a style and a way about it that I could get on board with.
I wrote that in my everything else because I wasn't sure what it was called. I wrote that weird cool RPG where you're a cat and a bit gross.
I don't know where it ends up. I can't remember what animal you were. Was that a cat?
Cattish mouse
It looked
thing.
cattish, but possibly, yeah. I went marsupial because I thought I couldn't quite remember if it was supposed to be a mouse or a like weird kind of hybrid of something.
A bandicoot.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure where that would land. I ended up penciling it in the PC show, but I'm not even sure it's made by a company that would necessarily land there either. So, but I mean, yeah, there's stuff like Max Payne 4 would be fantastic if that was ever going to happen, but that A isn't, and B wouldn't show up here anyway.
There's that new game from the folks who did Quantum Break that apparently
Remedy,
is now
yes, the old Max Payne
multi-format,
and Alan Wake studio, which apparently they own the rights to Alan Wake, and I'm not sure about Quantum Break, but they certainly own the rights to Alan Wake because I assumed they didn't. I assumed Microsoft had that, but I looked into it, and because that was a big tentpole for Microsoft. They got exclusivity on that, and Remedy, that was at a time where they'd sold Max Payne off to Rockstar and were the studio to hear from. And I'm a big fan of Max Payne, especially Max Payne 2, and Alan Wake and Quantum Break didn't really do it for me. There's hints that maybe there's something Alan Wake coming from them.
Well, apparently this next one is kind of leaning into games as a service.
Yes, so I've always got time for Remedy.
Games as games.
Games as games, please. Service as a service and games as games. I've always got time for Remedy, even if their recent 2 games have not thrilled me as much as I would have hoped. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what they've got coming. But Max Payne's now a Rockstar thing, and I still get the impression Max Payne 3 only existed so they could hone a combat combat kind of aspect to the engine that they could then put into GTA 5. I still kind of feel that's why Max Payne 3 got made, despite how much I loved that game. It never really felt like they saw it as something they were going to kind of build a tentpole part of their releases around. So yeah, it's kind of stuff like that where I feel like I'd be cheeky to ask for anything more. I'd love an Asura's Wrath something, but that's got weird rights associated with it, and to the point where Capcom haven't put Asura into games where rightfully you'd think they would, and haven't even mentioned whether there'll be any follow-up to that. And I kind of just assume there won't be, but can we at least get it on back compat? That'd be nice.
Oh, that seems like one of those games that it's like one of the ones that I should have played by now, and it's never gone cheap anywhere. It's been expensive. Everyone trying to look for it. It's held its value, I think. 'Cause
if you can grab it anywhere, or if it ends up on again, like get some of this stuff onto PlayStation Plus and Games with Gold, because there's plenty of games like this where it does feel like they kind of got forgotten, and I think it didn't happen to your Vanquishes and your Bayonettas, and I think it's a shame it happened to Asura's Wrath. I know there's quite a few people are big fans of it. It's just turns everything up to 11 and does QTEs as almost half your game. I enjoyed them, and I'm usually on a hair trigger for shutting a game off if I get QT exhausted. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to play Asura's Wrath, just go for it. And I'd love to see Asura punch his way through a screen onto E3, but it's not going to happen. So, and it feels
then buy the DLC for the real ending.
Yeah.
Right, we'll boing on to feedback that we got.
You say boing at this point, we're sort of slumping. It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm
boinging. I'm all about it.
Are you still boinging? You're still boinging?
Yeah.
I'm not even on coffee. I'm drinking water and I'm still boinging.
I'm definitely on coffee.
My bitter is empty now, so.
Yeah. Let me see. Sony Boys says he's.
That's not Sinawoo. There's different Sion.
That was very good. I'll read the question out first. So I said, what would you most like to see shown at LA next week? Could be a dream game, something you're expecting, or a title you'd like to see more of. So, like I say, Shona Boy says release date for Crackdown 3, 2019 apparently. Yeah. F-Zero on Switch and Demon's Souls Remastered. Good lad. Tap on the bottom.
Don't listen to him. Another one.
Martin Charlton said, more than anything, I want IO Interactive to reveal more details of Hitman 2. Gonna be a happy lad today.
Yeah.
Then immediately drop the first episode. So not really that long to wait, maybe.
Yeah, I guarantee that was earlier than most people were thinking, and it's full game. We're not talking episodes this time. I'm not sure.
We didn't know. We didn't know. This
and they announced it with a picture of him menacingly holding a muffin. Like, yep.
Yeah.
Well, Martin goes on to say, I'd buy a new Hitman mission every month until the end of time if they'd let me, and I can't wait to take Agent 47 to the racetracks shown in their teaser.
Top boy.
Night Twitten says, I would love to see a release date for Dreams. Looks lovely and have been patiently wanting more on it.
Didn't mention that in Sony because I'm not sure it makes it onto the stage, but I think it should. I think Sony have put a lot of faith in Media Molecule, and I think it has been rewarded, even though Little Big Planet never kind of took off the way they wanted it to. Dreams just is one of those games, like a Little Big Planet, like a Rock Band, where the idea of it I am all about, but I know I'll buy it and just not play that much of it.
You'll play what other people make. You wuld make it yourself.
Yeah, well, I saw a piece that said that they've kind of remade sort of Dreams quite a few times already since it was first announced. But on a recent video, I noticed that the super talented Cara Ellison is working on it.
Yeah, so I've heard people from Media Molecule on a couple of podcasts in recent times talking about the game, and that seems in a sort of way of they're kind of sowing seeds for ramping up towards. I'm not entirely sure. So what they were saying in the interviews that I heard and what they were talking about was it's not so much they remade the game, they took a long time to build the engine and the toolkit needed, and it took a lot of iterating and working on the engine before they even started actually making a game out of it. Because obviously it's not just they have to be able to use it, they have to be able to present it to a player and put it up front to a player in ways that they can use it. But again, the idea is that the whole game was made the same way that the players are going to make everything. That you can do it all with a controller, or I don't know if they're going to move controller, because I think the original demo was kind of using move controllers to sculpt clay.
The tyranny of the polygon.
Yeah, Paddy's probably got about 12 behind his sofa.
I do have a couple, which I bought for Resident Evil 5, so get fucked, everyone.
I want to see more Dreams, but I'm not sure it'll be on stage at Sony, just because I'm not sure it's the sort of thing. If Sony are doing kind of what they did last year or anything, it's not the sort of thing that you can easily demo in a video or easily showcase in a video. I think it needs someone sat down talking through how it works and what the cool stuff about it is. But yeah, it'd be cool to see that.
It goes on to say, other than that, I'd really like to see some more Shadows Die Twice info, please.
It's going to happen.
Samuel Mills says Demon Souls Remaster. Pat on the bottom. Get in the special room. You'll find cakes, your new CJ Blazer pencil case, and felt tip set.
How much are you?
That's what it markets as, but in the special room there is nothing.
These are you don't know because you're locked out. You've not got the code.
I don't need to go in.
Demon Souls Remaster announced at the Sony stage, but it would come to Xbox as well. A guy can dream. You're really getting extra points there. I'd like to see Microsoft announce a stellar lineup of first-party exclusives, including a release date for Crackdown 3, which we've now got, and new Fable game announced, which is coming from Playground, isn't it? So,
yeah.
I think they'll probably at least do something.
If they've had to push Crackdown back and not talk about it at this E3 because it's just not ready, which I know I said they have to say something about it, but if they are not ready to talk about a release date, fine, push it, don't show it, leave it till it's ready. They've got a void there to fill. They need to be, if they're working on a Fable game, they need to be saying something about it. If they're working on a Perfect Dark or whatever, they need to be saying something about it, because Simon Miller today, after Crackdown was kind of announced as delayed again and kind of pushed back, made a very sort of snarky but perfectly apropos and astute video where he counted down the upcoming exclusive releases for Microsoft, and it's a video where there are no games, because there's nothing. There needs to be something, and I don't want them.
They need to have that trail of breadcrumbs to show where they're going.
I don't want
point.
everything they show to be 2 years out. I want there to be more, but
they might have to.
I mean, say what you will about Sony, but at least you know there's stuff coming.
Yeah, but Sony did that at the E3 of Dreams, and we're still waiting on some of it. So,
and I think Microsoft, if that's the case, they have to put their hand in their pocket and buy exclusivity to games. And I'm not talking timed exclusivity, so it's not going to be big games like a Tomb Raider where they can get exclusivity for a year. I'm talking about Ori is now a Microsoft game. That wasn't made by Microsoft initially. That was going to be published by Microsoft initially, and they now have that game is Microsoft property as far as I know. They're
buying Playground games, aren't they?
I was going to say, if they're not buying exclusivity and buying the rights to a game the way they did with Gears of War, they bought it in, then they need to be buying the studios. If they can't get games made themselves with the studios they have, beyond what they've already got out and we know what's coming, they need to put their hand in their pocket, and that's an expensive way to do it. It's not ideal, but it's where they've put themselves. They did it to themselves.
Samuel goes on to say, obviously I'd like to see more Shadows Die Twice info, if that's even its name. If even half the things you guys mentioned about it on the last episode are true, it would be amazing. Very true, we shall see. They were juicy, so we had to talk about them. Finally, I'd like to see the game Rocksteady's been working on, hopefully a game about a different DC character set alongside the Arkham universe. Sean McElroy says, I hear Demon Souls. If you go into the room, you'll see people they're making very expensive coffee. Those cakes are nice. Sean,
I know where you live.
Sean, your blazer's waiting for you. It's on the rack. It's pressed. It's pristine. Good lad.
And it's imaginary. It's not real.
Pat you on the bottom into the special room. Morbid Beard says, I'm dying with anticipation waiting for a Splinter Cell announcement.
Yes.
And news of what Hitman is up to. I think you might be quite happy. Other than that, I would love to see a potential Killer 7 PS4 release. What would it come to PC pretty soon? I think that's a good shout.
Yeah.
On top of all that, Demon's Souls Remastered wouldn't go amiss.
Fucking get in the bin.
Pat on the bottom.
Get in the bin.
Into the special room.
Shave your beard. Shave your beard.
Crisps. Sean, I believe you like the crisps that Morbid Beard has brought. Everyone's getting on spiffingly. This is great.
I don't know whether
bit.
I'd be more entertained at a Demon's Souls remaster being announced or if it's not announced. Because either way,
it's tradition now, so settle in.
Either way, this tension has to break at some point.
Much like the addition of James Carter, speculating about Demon's Souls Remastered is just part of E3 now.
The wondrously named Oodles O'Quim says Bloodborne 2, PS Vita 2, Xbox One B, a budget console I invented myself with barely any hard drive but allows external drives for £100. Death Stranding demo, and finally a mic drop moment where Square Enix announced Final Fantasy Remake Episode 1 available now.
Show of dreams there. That's I think that's more dreams than I think can be fit into a show.
Would you say they are dreams of pipes?
No, there's no Mario games in there.
Let me see. Dominic Yarnum_citizen on Twitter says Bloodborne 2 would be amazing. Also, I'd like to see a new Silent Hill game, but given Konami's recent output, that's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
And of course, get in the room, my son! Oh, they're building up now. All my
Yarnum_citizen,
most favourite people.
Is this room big enough?
This room's finished.
Demon's Souls. It's massive. This is like Hogwarts, but for Demon's Souls.
It's like Hogwarts because it's full of wizards who aren't real.
Demon's room of requirement that grows to suit the size and need of its occupants.
Settle down. Jeremy Greer says, Demon's Souls Remastered!
Get in the bin!
Off you go! You brought some music, great. There's a record player in the corner. You know Josh. You obviously used to be on a podcast with him, and you just introduce yourself. Get something. Seen him come for the.
The music is the humming and wailing of sad people in a room of nothing. They're making their own music. It's not real.
May I suggest Jeremy only said Demon's Souls Remastered so he could get into the room full of people that he gets to kill?
I thought you were going to say so he can try and get him on his podcast.
He's just trying to trigger common justice.
Right. He's trying to sneak into the room, fire off Wrath of God in the middle of everyone, and thank you, good night.
He's also gone on to say, and just ruining his previous comment, a real answer. New hardware or a price drop on existing hardware, new properties instead of endless sequels, lots of fun, smaller indie stroke VR titles, and please, not much snark on Twitter.
Dead on. You saved it there.
Completely with him. Completely with him on everything, but ask him for no snark on Twitter. Delete Twitter.
Is it not right that between those two answers we've had Jeremy flip-flop there?
Ooh, very good.
Moving on. The underscore patches, there's something cool from Bethesda, which may well be Shadows Die Twice, if rumors are to be believed. Global Mega Dude says, I want Shadows Die Twice to be a Soul-Star game set in its own universe and have a new story. I do not want it to be Bloodborne 2. Also, if Blue Point's new remake isn't Demon's Souls, I'll be mighty upset. I'm going to let you in the room anyway! Oh, what, you bought some more crisps and some more cakes. There's some bowls. Josh. I knew you'd get the bowls of crisps.
Ball pit in this room, do you think? Ball pit in the corner?
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Stan Shaw says, Buggeration, I think I'm a bit late to the party. In the spirit of contribution, though, I'd love a new Excite truck. One of my favourite racing games ever. Amazing sense of speed, always barely hanging on to the track, and every jump feels insanely good when you land it and boost.
I've got boost.
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 Pete Lawson says, more Metro Exodus info, please.
Oh, yeah.
I'd also like Bethesda to reveal that they have a brand new engine that works properly and looks amazing for their new Fallout and Elder Scrolls games.
You might as well get in the imaginary room with the Demon's Souls people. Get in the room with the Demon Souls people. It's just as imaginary.
Yeah,
You don't have a say who gets in that room.
It seems to be
Just
a room
saying.
of imaginary things that aren't going to happen. I mean, it just
You don't
seems
know.
like...
It's like Hogwarts. But with Demon Souls. Micah at Rugby Skin on Twitter says, I'd also like to see developers with proven track records take on new IPs or take a fresh stab at an IP that hasn't been done right yet.
Okay, yeah.
Good luck.
That's pick something
play.
up. Like, let's just pick one recently. Fuse. Do that properly. There you go.
You've ruined everything. That's why you don't get in the room. It's another reason.
You stay in your room. Your Demon Souls room. You
Get
unbastard.
Prefix on the door. That was good. Well played. Right, so let's go for your top 5 wants from E3.
Sorry, Laura's just mouthing unbastard at me.
Hey. In the room you go!
No, she's not allowed in the room.
Laura's in, Paddy's outside. Laura's dancing at the window.
Just go, Laura, just go.
Your top
It's too
5.
much to explain, just go.
I've actually written 7 down here, so if you've got 7, you can do them. However many you want, really. We'll just... What do you want most from E3?
Somebody else go first, because I don't have anything written down for a top 5.
Yeah,
I didn't realise we were doing top 5s.
I'm quickly
I mentioned there's a DM.
Did you
Another
fuck?
reason why you don't get in the room.
It's as imaginary as your Demon Souls remaster.
You are just jealous
Things
because
that
you're
didn't
not
happen.
getting into my imaginary Demon Souls room.
Oh god, this has got awfully combative at the end, doesn't it?
Oh my god, you're just like Jeremy Greer there. If the shoe fits, wear it. It's the other flip flop. James, what would you most like from E3?
I've got 2 things written down. Hang on. Oh, there
Thanks
we
for
go.
listening, folks.
See,
Whatever you
know.
want to-
We both didn't know. This is evidence. It's 2-1.
James, did you know? Were you not trying to limit the sheer amount of stuff that you've written down that you wanted at E3?
Hang on. Burnout can go on the list. I'm frantically looking through notes. I wasn't aware of a top 5. I'm afraid.
I did say a top 3 to you, but I'd written down 7, so we'll see.
Wow.
You did originally say 3 things you want to see at the show, but I'd written down like 7 I wanted to see at each thing, and I hadn't condensed them into a 3.
We'll
Right,
just
I'm
go
going
top 3
I'm
then.
going to pull mine out the arse then.
I've got 5. I've got 5.
Don't know. Okay, you go, and I'm going to keep thinking.
Not in any particular order. I've
Do it.
mentioned all of these before, so it's just kind of a summary of
Just name check. Yeah.
Splinter Cell. I think is a given, but give me it. Cyberpunk 2077. I want to see what that's about,
yeah,
even if it's just a trailer or something. I want to know what we're in for. Ori, just want to see more, and maybe a release date would be cool. Below, I want to know where that game's at, and I want to, just get a handle on it, because I feel like it's been too long since I knew where it was at. And I think the one that probably does sit atop the list, Burnout. Anything Burnout. Give me Burnout. Maybe not Burnout Crash, but a Burnout. Please. EA, do right by your fans.
Yay.
Or those who only hang around you for Burnout.
Pat,
Yeah.
are you ready?
I got
Or
6.
do you need more time?
No.
Can you think of another one?
I got 6.
Can you think of another one?
Hang on.
Demon Souls
it's-
Remastered.
Nope.
Can you think of another one?
I'll probably think of one at the end. Oh, fuck off.
I didn't even mention Shadows Die Twice.
You didn't. Do you want me to say them all now before the timer runs out?
No, I'm just giving you room to do the last one if you need it.
No, I got
need
6.
any more time?
I'm thinking, no, I don't need any more time. I got 6. That anything more would be a stretch. Hang on.
Still not getting in the imaginary room.
Ah. Okay. What I'm looking
yeah.
forward to. Okay. I want to see more about Ghost of Tsushima. Very into that. I
Yeah,
want to
for
see
sure.
more of that. That looks like my shit. I would love to see some more solid, concrete If it's done, Beyond Good and Evil 2. If it isn't, I don't want to see it. But if it's there, I want it to be substantial. Just like James, I want to see Cyberpunk 2077. Witcher 3 was just a game of that forever. And I want more from those guys. And I think it's got the potential to be just incredible. I want to see, particularly from Sony, but I think from everyone, I want to just see a shitload of indies. Give me a lot of indies. Give me loads of them, and give them about 30 seconds each, just so we can see them and write the names down and get a feel for what they are. Don't do a 10-second thing. Give me loads of indies. Drown me in your games. I want to see what Shadows Die Twice is. I want to see gameplay for it. I want to see what it becomes. If it turns out to be Cowboy Bloodborne, fine by me, but it probably won't be, but that would be okay. And just to round it off perfectly with, I'm going to also agree with James, Burnout Valhalla. Give me Burnout Valhalla. Driving, doing flips off Zeus. Oh, imagine that. Oh.
Is that your lot?
No. Yeah, we're done. That's all I got. The Drawing Kid Wall game.
Concrete Genie.
Kid Wall Draw. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah. That goes hand in hand with Sony Indies, please. Just something.
Yeah.
Get them out there.
Truck that up. Give me some more Concrete Boy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Halo 6. I want to see proper Halo, good Halo, written by Joseph Staten with music by Martin McDonnell. I wanted to see big, bright, massive. I want Halo back, please. Monster Hunter Stories, I really want on Switch because I've been staring it down for yonks and it looks super pretty in the mobile version. So I'll have Monster Hunter times Pokemon. Thank you very much. Shadows Die Twice, obviously. So curious to see if those rumours that we had on the last two Inhumanties are true. Plus, it's from Forza Horizon 2 in Japan. Yes, please. Yes, please. Huge Japanese soundtrack, please, as well. Xenoblade Chronicles X on Switch would be delicious if you don't mind. Lost Odyssey 2 would be the greatest thing in the world, other than Demon Souls. Open the door to the special room. Yes, I see you there with the crisps. I see you with all those things.
It's not a room, it's a hole. You just fall down.
You can't even see the imaginary room. Start the disco! You can hear the music in the imaginary room, but you don't know where the door is. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you, James. See you on the E3 shows. Bye!
See you next week.
Bye! Jesus Christ.